Sleep Number's new collections are designed to adapt to the changing nature of your life and your sleep needs. Whether it's the personalized comfort of the new Comfort Mode mattress, the targeted pressure relief of the Comfort Next mattress, or the Climate Collection that actively cools or warms to help you fall asleep and stay asleep.
And now, get early access to our biggest sale of the year. Save 25% on the new Comfort Next Luxe for a limited time. Only at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com.
And away we go, episode 1383 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Friday, August 7th, 2026. It is the day on which we expect an introductory press conference for receiver Stefon Diggs with the Washington Commanders. He on Thursday was at the team facility. We know that because his agency, the Sports Entertainment Group, it on Thursday morning on Instagram posted a photo of Diggs at the team facility. We on Wednesday afternoon, of course, had the reports that Washington had agreed with Diggs on a one-year contract as an unrestricted free agent. The expectation is that he signed the contract on Thursday or will sign the contract on Friday, practice with the team on Friday morning in some form, and then do a post-practice press conference on Friday morning. There was no practice at 2026 Washington Commanders training camp on Thursday, but Friday, a big day as we now are 1 week away from Washington's first of 3 games in the NFL's 2026 preseason. We have the Washington Commanders against the Miami Dolphins at Northwest Stadium Friday night, August 14th at 7. Hello and welcome to this Friday installment of the Al Galdi podcast. Happy Friday. Next segment, a deep dive on Stefon Diggs, an expansive discussion with one of our favorites, Washington Commanders analyst Mark Bullock of Bullock's Film Room on Substack. All 22 style analysis of what Washington is getting in Stefon Diggs, including why he is our team's best WR2 during its time with Terry McLaurin as WR1, how the McLaurin-Diggs duo compares with the Washington Redskins' great receiver duo of Pierre Garcon-DeSean Jackson, what makes Diggs still such a good receiver as he enters his age 33 season, how Washington should use Diggs, what Washington signing Diggs means for other receivers on the team, and more. And Mark also will give us a breakdown of cornerback Rasul Douglas. Is he Washington's best cornerback? Mark Bullock, next segment. And also on the show, I'll talk Washington Nationals and Baltimore Orioles. The Nats, they concluded a 1-7 road trip with a 7-3 loss at the Philadelphia Phillies on Thursday evening to lose 3 out of 4 games in the series. The O's, they were denied a 3-game sweep, a 4-1 loss to the Los Angeles Angels at Oriole Park at Camden Yards on Thursday afternoon. Before we get to feedback, so Thursday was the day on which the Washington Wizards' Anthony Davis became eligible for a contract extension, including a max contract extension worth up to approximately $275 million over 4 years. As I've been saying, I do not want our Wizards signing him to a max contract extension or some monster contract extension. And if you're like me, we on Thursday morning got some very good news. Wizards insider Joshua Robbins of The Athletic, he on Thursday morning reported, quote, league sources who were granted anonymity to speak freely told The Athletic that any meaningful talks between Davis and the Wizards about a possible extension will occur during the 2026-27 season, not before, end quote. Bravo, Washington Wizards. Bravo, Monumental Basketball President Michael Winger and Wizards General Manager Will Dawkins. Anthony Davis is entering his age 33 season. He has been injured a ton. Any notion of the Wizards signing this guy to a contract extension should include him, actually playing for the team in a regular season before signing him to a contract extension. Davis, per Hoops Hype, is under contract for the 2026-2027 season at $58.457 million, and then has a player option for the 2027-2028 season at $62.787 million. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. You can reach me via writing a review of the podcast on Apple Podcasts. You can write about whatever you want, and I'll read what you write if you give the podcast a 5-star rating. Lots of feedback on the Washington Commanders signing Stefon Diggs from Matthias on X writes, Matthias, while I think our cadre of receivers can reproduce the production of a WR2 in the aggregate, I just don't think we had anyone to take the load off of Terry if he gets hurt or is just off. Now we do. Thank you for that, Matthias. From T. Kennedy on X writes, T. Kennedy, gotta be the oldest WR tandem in the league, but we don't care. Thank you for that, T. Kennedy. The WR1, Terry McLaurin, is entering his age 31 season. The WR2, Stefon Diggs, is entering his age 33 season. That is an older WR1, WR2 duo, no doubt. But, most of the rest of Washington's receivers are young. Email from Kim. Writes Kim, let's go. Excellent move. He has some legal trouble, but at this point, we will figure it out. Or he will. Thank you for the email, Kim. I am reminded of one of the greatest quotes in Washington, D.C. sports history. Washington Redskins head coach Steve Spurrier in October 2003 on the Skins signing unrestricted free agent interior defensive lineman Darrell Russell, who had had various troubles, including being charged with drugging a woman with GHB and then recording her alleged rape by two of his friends. The alleged incident happened on January 31st, 2002, but prosecutors in September 2002 did drop all 25 felony charges against Russell, saying that they could not prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. Darrell Russell actually died in a car wreck in December 2005, but said Spurrier of the Skins signing Russell in October 2003, quote, "He's not in jail, is he?" End quote. No, Darrell Russell was not in jail. Stefon Diggs is not in jail. And as I said on Thursday's show, episode 1382, it is hard to know how legitimate the various accusations in his various legal entanglements have been. Big Washington Commanders news with the team signing Stefon Diggs. No podcast covers a team like this podcast does. 2026 Washington Commanders training camp is ongoing. Football season is here. If you would like to grow your business or practice, consider advertising on this podcast. We're offering great deals in honor of the football season. Podcast advertising is very affordable and works. Put the power of the pod to work for you. Get your message out there to thousands of successful people in the Washington, D.C. area. Grow your business or practice. We'd love to have you on board. Email us to see what we can do for you. The email address is thealgaldypodcast@yahoo.com. So what are the Washington Commanders getting in receiver Stefon Diggs? He's entering his age 33 season, but is coming off a terrific 2025 season for the New England Patriots. But Washington is his fourth team in 4 seasons. How about this from ESPN NFL analyst Andrew Hawkins on ESPN's Get Up on Thursday morning.
Stefon Diggs is the best receiver on this roster. And that's no disrespect to Terry McLaurin, because Terry McLaurin is awesome as well. I'm just trying to illustrate how good Stefon Diggs has been and was even after an ACL tear last year in New England. He elevates the pass game. He can play inside. He can play outside. He right-sides the rest of that unit. And for Jaden Daniels, you have 2 true number ones on each side of the field. And with the amount of ability that Jaden Daniels has, this could be a receiving core in the camp of the Bengals, in the camp of the Eagles last year, in the camp of the Dallas Cowboys, because you have 2 high-level receivers on the field at all times.
Well, exciting to hear that. And regarding Stefon Diggs being Washington's true WR1 and not Terry McLaurin, look, there is a case for that, but I would not be so quick to say that. McLaurin's 2 years younger and has been a high-level receiver for years. But if you're looking at each guy's career, Diggs has had the better career. Stefon Diggs has had at least 1,000 receiving yards in 7 of the last 8 seasons. It is a pleasure to welcome back to the Al Galdi podcast Washington Commanders analyst Mark Bullock. Mark is exceptional at talking Washington Commanders from an X's and O's standpoint. He does tremendous Washington Commanders all-22 breakdowns. You can read his work on his Substack, Bullock's Film Room, which you can find at markbullock.substack.com. He has more than 4,000 subscribers, and Mark on Thursday morning put up a breakdown of Stefon Diggs. Headline quote, "What WR Stefon Diggs brings to the Washington Commanders," end quote. Mark has written for The Athletic and for The Washington Post. He also is a Washington Commanders fan. You can follow Mark on X at Mark Bullock NFL. Hey, Mark, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. A little lacking sleep after the news broke Wednesday evening, and stayed up late overnight watching Stefon Diggs film. Yeah, it's pretty exciting news. You don't always get a fairly big name signing at this point in training camp, so you get a nice new addition and new thing to talk about.
So you're in Sweden, which is 6 hours ahead of Eastern Standard Time. On Wednesday night at 8:21 DM Mark about coming on the podcast. He responded 1 minute later. He was up at what was 2:21 a.m. for him. Mark is a warrior.
Yeah, I was watching film at that point, writing up an article to go up on Thursday morning about him. So yeah, I think I was about 4 or 5 games deep at that point in Stefon Diggs' film, and I watched a few more after that. So hopefully got a fairly good idea of where he's at.
Okay, a few basic questions before we get to the true breakdown of Stefon Diggs. The top two WR2s for Washington in the time of Terry McLaurin as the team's WR1, the 2019 through 2025 seasons, have been Curtis Samuel and Deebo Samuel Sr. in some order. Is Stefon Diggs the best WR2 for Washington in the Terry McLaurin era?
Yeah, I mean, if you look just purely at the production, I think you have to put Diggs miles at the top of that list. Like, Curtis Samuel was the other one that came to mind when I was thinking about this after the news broke. Like, who would be, is Diggs the best partner that McLaurin's ever had? And Curtis Samuel was the first one that came to mind, but Curtis Samuel has never had a 1,000-yard receiving season, whereas Stefon Diggs has had 7 in the last 8 and probably would have had an 8th if he hadn't torn his ACL halfway through 2024. So, yeah, by far and away the most productive and best receiver that Washington's ever had to partner Terry McLaurin.
The last truly great WR1, WR2 duo for Washington was Pierre Garcon and DeSean Jackson over the 2014 through 2016 seasons. How does the Terry McLaurin-Stefon Diggs duo compare with the Pierre Garcon-DeSean Jackson duo?
Yeah, well, I mean, I would say I'd like McLaurin more than Garcon as kind of the X receiver, but I don't think anyone can take DeSean Jackson's sort of place at the top. As like, DeSean Jackson's one of the best deep threats in NFL history, right? Like, and he's up there with like Jerry Rice in terms of deep touchdowns. So I think you have to kind of give him the crown as the best guy out of all that group. So yeah, DeSean Jackson probably makes that Garcon Djax kind of pairing slightly better. And you know, they also had like Jordan Reed, they had Jameson Crowder in the slot, they had Chris Thompson out of the backfield. That offense was stacked. Here they have pieces that you know think you could put together, but we still need to see it. But certainly McLaurin and Diggs, they feel like two very established veterans. They feel like two very good fits for Jaden Daniels as the quarterback in how he meshes with certain types of receivers. They both feel like good fits for that. So I think it's not impossible to see they would get more production out of these two than one or two of the years that DeSean Jackson and Pierre Garcon were together. But also you have to take into account that as I said, that offense was stacked with so many different options that they all kind of got a good amount of work in that system. Whereas in this one, you would think it would be a little bit more heavily weighted towards McLaurin and Diggs, with, you know, Okonkwo's a nice piece at tight end, but you know, he's never had a huge workload before. We have to see that. Antonio Williams in the slot we're hopeful for, but again, he's a rookie. We need to see how that goes. And Rachaad White is a decent running back out of the backfield, but he's never been like an elite receiving running back that Chris Thompson was. So you would think they would lean a little bit more on McLaurin and Diggs. So you could see them being a little bit more productive.
All right, so your analysis of Stefon Diggs, you and your Substack piece had this quote: "One of the first things that stood out to me when watching Diggs' film from last year wasn't the route running or the catching ability. I'll certainly get to those things in this post, but the thing that jumped out to me most was his ability to make himself available," end quote. What exactly did you mean by that?
Yeah, so it's kind of, it reminded me a lot of what Zach Ertz did for Washington and Jaden for the past couple of years, where he would run routes, but he wouldn't just blindly run the route that was designed and written on a bit of paper, right? He would understand that there's coverage rotations and there's defenders going into areas where he wants to run his route. And the example that I showed to go along with that that quote was there was a sail route against the Ravens. A sail concept, for anyone that doesn't know, is it's a three-man concept. The idea is you flood one side of the defense. You have an outside receiver running down the field to clear out a deep defender. You usually have a tight end or a running back working to the flat to occupy an underneath defender, and that creates this big space between the deep defender and the flat defender in the middle for what's called a sail route. Usually, you have a slot receiver or a tight end running kind of a deep corner route into that vacated space between those other two receivers. And it's a really good way to attack zone coverages. And they were facing the Ravens, who do play a lot of zone coverage. And they had a receiver run deep, took the deep corner away. They had a tight end work to the flat to take the flat defender away, which in theory should open up that sail route for Diggs in the slot. But the Ravens had a little bit of a funky coverage, and they had a safety rotate down into sort of the area where Diggs was running his route. And Diggs, as he was making his break out towards the sideline on this sail route, could see that safety was there and had identified what the route combination was, what the threat was. And so that safety actually took himself out of where his normal position was, which was more towards the middle of the field, and worked outside to try to cover where Diggs was going to run into. And if Diggs had just continued running his route as it was drawn up on paper, he'd have just run straight at that safety and wouldn't have been available. But Diggs is a smart guy, and he knows, well, that safety has actually vacated the spot in the field, in the middle of the field, to get outside to cover the sail route. So if I just break off my route and sit my route down, I'll be in the space where the safety was meant to be, and I'll be open. And that's exactly what he did. He broke off his route. He kind of sat his route down, and Drake May was in the pocket and kind of stepping up, looking for an option. And he could see he was looking to Diggs, because that's where the read was meant to go, to that sail route. But you could see that it was covered initially, but Diggs broke the route off and made himself available. And May found him, and they picked up something like a 20-yard gain on 3rd and 15 to convert. So it's smart, savvy things that come from being an experienced veteran receiver, where he's not just running the routes as they're drawn up on paper. He's understanding that there's defensive coverage structures and that and how defenders leverage themselves to be able to take away routes. And, it does take some level of understanding with the quarterback of, hey, if we get this look, I'm going to break this route off. Like if Diggs... if May expected Diggs to keep running and just threw it, it would have been an interception. But Diggs was smart enough, and May was smart enough to understand that if Diggs keeps running, that defender had positioned himself in such a way to take away the route that May shouldn't have thrown that ball there anyway. Otherwise, it would have been an interception anyway. So they were both on the same page. He was able to break off that route, make himself available in kind of sitting it down in a hole in the coverage that shouldn't necessarily have been there, but it kind of going off script a little bit, but also just kind of playing ball and having this really good feel for where the little soft spots are and making himself available.
That's really interesting. What other traits about Stefon Diggs stood out?
Yeah, so that was the one that jumped out the most, was, this kind of veteran savvy, understanding of how to find little soft spots and how to adjust his routes or go off script and make himself available. And that comes with being experienced. And as I say, it reminded me a lot of what Zach Ertz would do quite a lot for the past few years for Jaden, and making himself a kind of reliable target. But he's not just that. He's more explosive than Zach Ertz was. The route running is obviously still a big thing for him. He might not necessarily be quite as explosive as he was in his prime, but he's still a very good route runner. He still understands how to attack the leverage of defenders. He still understands how to set up his routes. And one example was against the Texans. He was facing, it was a zone coverage, but it was a trip set to the left, and he was isolated on the right, and that effectively made him one-on-one against Derek Stingley, who is one of the best young corners in the NFL. And he set up Stingley really well. He understood that Stingley was playing off and with outside leverage. So instead of Diggs was running a deep dig route, so a deep in-breaking route at about 15, 20 yards. And Diggs initially ran up the field, but could see that Stingley was playing with heavy outside leverage. So instead of just running up the field, he attacked that leverage. He adjusted his route and kind of bent it outside towards the numbers to force Stingley wider, knowing that would then make Stingley go wider to maintain his outside leverage and create space over the middle to then break inside. And that's what he did. He created that space for himself to break over the middle, get inside, and he was wide open. But unfortunately, the pass got batted down at the line of scrimmage. So he still is very, very capable of setting up his routes, understanding and attacking leverage, and knows how to create separation from even some of the best young corners in the NFL. So that is something that I think will mesh well it meshes well with any quarterback, obviously, but particularly Jayden Daniels. The thing we've seen with Jayden over the past couple of years here is the receivers that he meshes well with are veterans that he trusts to run good routes and be at the right spot at the right time. Guys like Terry McLaurin, guys like Zach Ertz, guys like Noah Brown even. They are all kind of veteran receivers that understand, hey, this offense is based a lot on rhythm and timing, that we've got to be at the right spot at the right time so Jayden can anticipate throws and have the ball out before we make our break to make the most of the separation. And Diggs is a guy that understands that at his age, and so he knows how to, when he can pick and choose his spots to adjust his routes and not freelance, but as I say, do that kind of thing where he widens the route to open up leverage for himself to break back inside, but he still does it within the right time frame to make sure he's making the break at the right point to be in the correct spot at the right time for his quarterback to trust him. So I think he does a lot of small, fine details that help build trust with a quarterback, and you can see that, he's been super productive everywhere he's been. He's been on a lot of different teams, and he's built trust with a lot of different quarterbacks. And no matter who's been throwing him the ball, he's basically always put up 1,000-yard receiver season. So that shows that he is very good at being a very QB friendly target, and so I think that is something that Jayden will find very fun to work with.
Much more with Mark Bullock in moments, but this is a great time of year. Big Washington Commanders news with the signing of Stefon Diggs. The team's training camp is ongoing, and we are in the heart of summer. Whatever you're up to this summer, Quince has you covered with great clothing. Go to quince.com/Galdi for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Quince focuses on well-made essentials that naturally become those everyday staples that you actually live in all season long, like the shorts that I got from Quince, sand dune-colored cotton chino drawstring shorts. They look and feel great. They go with just about anything. They are the workhorse of the Goldie Shorts rotation for the summer of 2026. Clothes from Quince are the summer upgrade that your rotation needs. Quince's 100% European linen pants and shirts are breathable and are easy to throw on, starting at just $34. Quince's tees are soft enough to live in all day, and the lightweight cotton sweaters are exactly what you want when summer nights cool down. And everything at Quince is priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. Quince works directly with ethical factories and cuts out the middlemen, so you're paying for exceptional quality, not brand markup. Make your summer wardrobe easier. Go to quince.com/Galdi for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/Galdi. Free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/Galdi.
Hi, Ryan Reynolds here for Mint Mobile. Are you looking for a beach read this summer? May I suggest your big wireless bill? It's got suspense, mystery, a slightly flat, emotional arc, and a shocking twist where you realize you've been overpaying the entire time. Fortunately, though, Mint's story is better. Every plan, $15 a month, even unlimited. That's it. Happy ending, zero tears.
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.
If your business runs on 5 different apps, 12 browser tabs, and one spreadsheet that everyone's afraid to touch, it's probably time for Odoo. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that connects every part of your business into one powerful, easy-to-use platform. So instead of wasting time switching between disconnected systems, your entire business works together in real time. Your team moves faster, your data stays accurate, and you can actually focus on growing your business. Let one unified system run your entire business. From the first opportunity to the final payment, everything works together in one place. Whether you're a small business or managing a large operation, Odoo gives you one flexible platform built to grow with you. Learn more at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com.
If you're like me, you're the kid who savored every last drop of sugary milk at the bottom of your cereal bowl while watching Saturday morning cartoons. Kachava's new flavor, Cinnamon French Toast, gives you a bit of that classic nostalgia. And I love that it's made with real cinnamon bark. It's a comfort flavor, but with benefits and without the sugary drawbacks. There's no artificial colors, flavors, or sweeteners. It's non-GMO, there's no soy, there's no animal products, no gluten, and no preservatives. But Kachava does provide all the nutrition your body craves in one deliciously simple shake with just 2 scoops. So treat yourself to a childhood favorite. Go to Kachava.com and use code SPORTS for 15% off your first order. That's Kachava, Kachava.com with code SPORTS.
More now with Washington Commanders analyst Mark Bullock of Bullock's Film Room on Substack. You know, for all of the talk about Washington needing another outside receiver, Stefon Diggs isn't necessarily that guy. Diggs in the 2025 regular season per data on RotoWire lined up in the slot on 300 plays, lined up on the outside on 285 plays, and lined up tight on 11 plays. So he last season was more of a slot receiver than an outside receiver. He, of course, is not going to have the same vertical juice that he had in his prime with the Minnesota Vikings and Buffalo Bills, but Washington does already have a number of receivers who profile as more slot receivers than outside receivers. How should Washington use Diggs?
I don't think he's necessarily your kind of downfield outside receiver, but I don't think they necessarily need him to be. I think you have De'Ami Brown for that kind of thing. Traylon Burks with his size and jump ball ability can be that kind of vertical option as well. Jalen Lane has the deep speed. Luke McCaffrey's been supposedly having a pretty good training camp, and he's a pretty good vertical threat as well. So I think they have guys, and obviously Terry McLaurin on the other side of the field, is a very good vertical option. I think they have guys that can do the vertical stuff. I think Diggs, I think he was, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but I think it was roughly a 50-50 split in terms of being in the slot and being outside. I kind of see that would be kind of the way they would go with him. I think in this offense, the kind of Z receiver and the slot receiver are very interchangeable. And I think what we were kind of talking about with Antonio Williams after the draft, where he could play some of that Z in 2 wide receiver sets, he can move inside to the slot in 3 wide receiver sets. I think Diggs can do a lot of those same things. In an ideal world, you have your rookie receiver, Antonio Williams, being your slot receiver in 3 receiver sets, which means Diggs has to line up outside. But you can do a lot of different things to still get Diggs in the slot. You can have, a trip set with all 3 receivers and McLaurin's outside, and then you have both Williams and Diggs in the slot. You can move the tight ends around. You can have a Okonkwo outside. You could have Ben Sinnott outside, and that would then put Diggs in the slot. You can have tight splits, which make them effectively slot receivers, even though they're the furthest guys outside. So there's a lot you can do. You can motion them around. So I think Diggs can play both inside and outside. I don't think he's going to be your vertical threat on the outside. But again, I don't think you need him to be. I think when you put him on the outside in sort of 2 receiver sets, I think he's someone that what he showed last year with the Patriots is he's got a surprising. And I hadn't watched too much of Diggs throughout his career in recent years, but he's got this surprising amount of toughness where he's willing to go over the middle, make some tough catches, and that's the kind of thing, the deep overs, the high crosses off of play action that we're expecting them to target a lot. He did quite a bit of that with the Patriots last year, and pulled in some pretty tough catches over the middle of the field, and had some nice yards after the catch doing those type of things. So I think when you look at him being an outside receiver, those are the type of things you're going to have him do. Obviously, the route running where you can run those kind of comebacks and curls and stuff, he'll be good at that on the outside as well. But I think you'd be looking at a guy that you're trying to run those kind of high crossers, the deep over routes. That would be the kind of thing that you're looking for as an outside guy. When you move him into the slot, we know that this offense is loosely going to be based around that 2023 Lions attack, and St. Brown was the feature guy in the slot, where he was high volume, running sorts of choice routes, pivot routes, short underneath quick hitters. Diggs did a lot of that for the Patriots last year too, so I think you could put him inside and do some of that. You can have him and Antonio Williams kind of interchanging. If Williams isn't quite ready, you've now got this more established veteran option that could go in there and do that. So I think it gives them a lot of flexibility. I don't think he is someone that you have to say he definitely has to play outside or definitely has to play inside. I think he can do a bit of both and probably will do a bit of both.
We, on episode 1358 of this podcast, discussed Washington offensive coordinator David Blau having this goal of getting Terry McLaurin at least 10 targets per game in the 2026 regular season. How does Stefon Diggs help in the pursuit of that goal?
Well, having a true number two receiver, in theory, should make the coverages, a little bit less leaning towards McLaurin and should spread the coverages a little bit more evenly. And maybe even, if they have games where Terry's being taken away a little bit more frequently, then Diggs is going to be someone that can make them pay a little bit more consistently underneath. And if you have games where the defense is saying, okay, well, we got to stop them hitting Diggs underneath, that's when Terry becomes a more legitimate option down the field with less, too deep safety looks to kind of take away those shots. So, that's the way it kind of plays out, at least in theory on paper. We'll have to see how it plays out on the field, but at least in theory, it should prevent defenses from kind of tilting their coverage towards McLaurin and giving as much help towards McLaurin as they can. They've now got a second legitimate threat that they have to think about and consider. And then obviously you've got the interior guys, the Antonio Williams, the Chiga Conquos and Rashad Whites or whoever out of the backfield that can also be productive in this type of system. So it helps bring balance to the whole offense rather than I think we talked about at the time about that 10 targets a game for Terry McLaurin being a little bit coach speak. Like obviously McLaurin's their number one and they're going to want to target him plenty, but 10 targets a game, there's very few receivers that actually get 10 targets a game consistently. So I think when you add a Stefon Diggs into the mix, who's going to get his, that target number is going to come down a little bit for McLaurin. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. As I say, it makes the offense more balanced. It forces the defense to be more considerate of everyone on the field rather than tilting their coverage one way or the other.
Is there a Washington receiver or are there Washington receivers for whom the team signing Stefon Diggs is bad news?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because we've heard all offseason that they quite like their receiver room, and I do quite like a lot of the pieces they have. They've got three young receivers that they've drafted now in obviously Antonio Williams this year, but Jalen Lane the year before and Luke McCaffrey the year before that. So those are three guys that they've all drafted in the third or fourth round that you would think would make the team. So when you go McLaurin-Diggs and those three, that's suddenly five receivers, and a lot of teams only carry five receivers. Some go six, and occasionally you get someone go seven. But you've then got De'Ami Brown, who everyone's been praising as he's come back a little bit more mature, and there's a role for him certainly as kind of a backup X to Terry McLaurin, or someone that can do some of the dirty work that he did in 2024, where he was a good blocker and could do some screen stuff and obviously stretch the field vertically. And then you've got Treylon Burks, who flashed potential last year and looks like he could be a real good vertical option, certainly in the red zone. Big target, big body. Also did some nice dirty work with the blocking in the run game last year. So they now have quite a few different options there. It does make the kind of final 53 numbers projection quite interesting. I do wonder if this means, I felt like they were probably always likely to keep six to give them the depth at different positions without a true number two receiver to go alongside McLaurin. They probably wanted the depth to give them different options to mix and match. Now that they have Diggs, you think it's probably McLaurin as the X, Diggs as the Z, Antonio Williams as the slot, and then you've got, probably De'Ami Brown as the backup X, I guess Treylon Burks as the backup Z, and then Luke McCaffrey kind of backing up all three spots and Jalen Lane backing up the slot. That gives you kind of 7 guys. Do you make a tough call on one of them? Do you maybe cut De'Ami Brown or Treylon Burks? Do you maybe say Luke McCaffrey hasn't quite stepped up over 3 years? Do you say, Jalen Lane, we think you're only a return guy, we move on from you? I don't know. I think it leads to them potentially keeping 7 guys now, and maybe they call Lane a return specialist. I personally am admittedly higher on Lane than most, and I think he can still develop as a good receiver, but it probably does take snaps away from him, and pushes him down the depth chart. So that one is going to be a really interesting one to see how it all plays out. I tend to think it probably leads to them keeping maybe 7 receivers, which means there's going to be another position somewhere on the roster that's going to be lighter than we're expecting right now.
A popular topic in recent months has Washington general manager Adam Peters done enough to support the QB1 Jayden Daniels? How would you answer that question off the team signing Stefon Diggs?
I think, at least on paper, I think he's done a pretty good job. There's more than one way to support a quarterback. Everyone thinks support a quarterback means get them 5 all-star wide receivers, and that's just not how it works, right? He has extended Terry McLaurin. He has spent 3 mid-round picks on receivers, as I talked about with McCaffrey and Lane and Williams, and you can debate how good those guys are, but he has spent the draft capital. It's not nothing. He has spent, as I say, 2 third-round picks on McCaffrey and Williams, and a 4th-round pick on Jalen Lane. So he spent some draft capital at receiver. He tried to sign Alec Pierce and Romeo Dobbs, but couldn't land either one in free agency. He's now signed Stefon Diggs, and then he's bolstered other positions. Like, he spent the whole 2025 offseason rebuilding that offensive line, getting Laramie Tunsil, drafting Josh Connolly, moving Brandon Coleman inside the guard to give them depth, moving, a starter and Andrew Wiley inside to being kind of a swing guard tackle to give them more depth. So he rebuilt that offensive line in 2025, which should hopefully be a strength of the team this year. This offseason, he's completely revamped the defense, and that defensive front looks night and day compared to what it was last year. And so, that's another way to support the quarterback is, if a defense isn't giving up 25 points a game, then you're not having to score 26 points a game to win, right? So if the defense is significantly better and giving up less points and be able to get more stops, then that takes a lot of pressure off as well. So I think he's done a pretty good job when you look at the overall shape of the roster compared to this point last year, or certainly when he drafted Jayden in 2024. That I think he's done a pretty good job of trying to rebuild what he inherited. It's maybe not quite happened as quick as most people wanted, and maybe it's lacking like a true elite young receiver. I still kind of have the feeling they probably would have drafted Carnell Tate if he had been there at 7, to be that kind of young receiver to grow with Jayden, but he wasn't there. He was gone at 4. There's not much more you can do about that. So I think there's always he's admitted there's always more you're looking to do. There's always more you can do, but overall, I think he's done a fairly good job.
Getting away from Stefon Diggs, you and your Substack on August 3rd put up a breakdown of cornerback Rasul Douglas. Headline, quote, "What CB Rasul Douglas brings to the Washington Commanders," end quote. Washington on July 27th announced the signing of Douglas as an unrestricted free agent. Douglas, in the 2025 regular season in playing for the Miami Dolphins, played in 15 of their 17 games, including 13 starts, and registered an overall grade per Pro Football Focus of 72.7, which is good. PFF grades are on a scale 0 to 160 is average. He is entering his age 31 season, but given the questions for Washington at corner, is it the case that on paper, Douglas immediately becomes the team's best corner?
It depends how you define best. Most talented, I would say that's probably Amos, but Amos isn't healthy right now. Douglas is probably the I'd say most reliable and probably one of the better fits for what we're expecting this defense to be. Where Douglas has got unstuck a little bit, certainly in the last few years of his career, has been, playing press man coverage. And he's a big, long corner, and you kind of think, okay, he's a real physical guy and he'll get up on the line of scrimmage and jam guys and be really good at man. And, he can be physical at the line of scrimmage, but he can also be hit and miss with that jam. If he doesn't jam the guy, he can really struggle and get beat fairly frequently. Where he's actually at his best is if he's playing off and with vision on the quarterback and reading multiple routes and jumping routes and keeping things in front of him and jumping those routes, which is what we're expecting this defense to do with the amount of pressure they're expected to send. And you look at where Durante Jones came from with the Vikings, that was what they did with their corners. They had their corners play sort of 8 to 10 yards off the line of scrimmage with vision on the quarterback and multiple routes and reading, all the pressure coming up front, forcing those quick throws and just jumping them. And that's where Douglas excels. And that's also where guys like Mikey Sainristil should excel as well. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up pushing one of Amos or Sainristil for a starting spot, because I think his skill set does fit. But I also think, as I say, I think Amos and Sainristil are both capable of playing really well in this defense as well. So I don't necessarily think it puts him straight to the top of the depth chart, no. But I do think if he had to come in, if Amos takes longer to come back from his injury or whatever, I think he's someone that could be a reliable option to step in and start.
Washington Commanders analyst Mark Bullock of Bullock's Film Room on Substack. Mark, thanks, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, of course, talk soon.
All right. Hey, especially now with the Washington Commanders signing Stefon Diggs, if you are a Washington Commanders fan and are on Instagram, make sure that you're following WSH on the Daily. The handle is at WSH on the Daily. The content is outstanding. Daily coverage of the Washington Commanders, news, analysis, opinions, great photos and videos, all about the team. WSH on the Daily started in 2021 and has nearly 47,000 followers. Don't get left behind. Follow WSH on the Daily on Instagram. The handle is at WSH on the Daily. And check out WSH on the Daily's online shop, WSHonthedaily.com. Some terrific gear, t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, hats, excellent materials, modern looks. So for smart, informative, fun, and engaging Washington Commanders content, check out WSH on the Daily on Instagram. And for great merch, visit WSHonthedaily.com. A brutal 8-game road trip for the Washington Nationals now is over. The Nats on the trip went just 1-7, a 7-3 loss at the Philadelphia Phillies on Thursday evening to lose 3 out of 4 games in the series. This off the Nats getting swept in a 4-game series at the National League East leading Atlanta Braves July 30th through August 2nd. The Nats in MLB's 2026 regular season now are 56-61 with a run differential of +10. The Phillies in this regular season now are 62-54 with a run differential of +2. The Nats, over their 7 losses on the road trip, totaled a mere 17 runs. The Nats on Thursday evening, just 3 runs, just 2 for 9 with runners in scoring position, 12 strikeouts. The Nats totaled 8 hits, which were a home run, a triple, a double, and 5 singles, and the Nats did draw 3 walks. The Nats faced Philly starting pitcher Christopher Sanchez, who came into the game number 1 among all MLB pitchers in wins above replacement per Baseball Reference for this regular season at 5.9. He allowed 2 runs in 5 innings with 6 strikeouts, but did give up 6 hits and did issue 2 walks and a hit by pitch. As the Nats did a good job of driving up his pitch count to 98 and him lasting for just the 5 innings. All things considered, the Nats did a decent job against Sanchez. The Nats homer came from Andrew Pinckney in just his 2nd career MLB regular season game. He is the Nats starting left fielder and number 6 batter, went 1 for 2 with a solo homer, and he was credited with an outfield assist. But Pinckney in the Nats' 1-run 4th had a 2-out opposite field solo homer to right center field off Christopher Sanchez to cut the Nats deficit to 6-2. The homer was Pinckney's first career MLB regular season hit. Nice work. His first career MLB regular season hit was a homer off Christopher Sanchez. Pretty good. The Nats on Tuesday evening announced having selected the contract of Andrew Pinckney from AAA Rochester. They took him in the fourth round of the 2023 MLB first-year player draft out of the University of Alabama. He was part of the Nats getting some good offensive contributions from the bottom portion of the lineup. Jacob Young, he is the Nats starting center fielder and number 7 batter, went 2 for 2 with a triple, an RBI single, and a hit by pitch. K-Bit Ruiz, he is the Nats starting catcher and number 9 batter, went 2 for 3 with an RBI single, another single, and a walk. But the Nats numbers 1 through 4 batters, Dylan Cruz, Andres Chaparro, Brady House, and C.J. Abrams, went a combined 2 for 16 with 2 singles and a walk. You could say that this Nats lineup misses James Wood. The Nats on Tuesday evening announced having put outfielder James Wood on the 10-day injured list due to a left oblique strain. The Nats miss some other guys as the team in the lead-up to the 2026 MLB trade deadline, which was on Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern, traded away 3 key players in infielder Curtis Mead, first baseman Luis Garcia Jr., and starting pitcher Foster Griffin. The Nats starting pitcher in this 7-3 loss at the Phillies on Thursday evening was Miles Mikolas. Was this his final outing for the Nats? Mikolas allowed 6 runs in 5 innings. He gave up a whopping 12 hits, including 7 doubles. Yes, 7 doubles to go with 5 singles. He issued a walk. He recorded 1 strikeout. He threw 93 pitches, 59 strikes, 34 balls. So Mikolas allowed 6 runs over the first 3 innings. It did then toss scoreless 4th and 5th innings. And all of this happened on the day on which he reached 10 years of MLB service time, qualifying him for full premier pension benefits under the MLB Players Association benefit plan. 10 years of MLB service time is a big deal for players. And I bring this up because there had been the thought that the Nats cutting Mikolas prior to him reaching 10 years of MLB service time would have been cruel. Okay, fine. Well, now he has reached 10 years of MLB service time. I, on Wednesday's show, episode 1381, wondered how much longer the now analytically inclined, forward-thinking Nats would keep 2 struggling veterans in Zach Littell and Miles Mikolas in the starting pitching rotation. Well, the Nats on Wednesday afternoon announced having designated Zach Littell for assignment. Let's see what happens with Miles Mikolas, who for this regular season has some horrible numbers. 24 games, including 11 starts, ERA of 5.89, whip of 1.41. The Nats relief pitching in this 7-3 loss at the Phillies on Thursday evening was good. 2 Nats relievers combined to allow 1 run in 3 innings. Max Kranick allowed 1 run in 2 innings, and Trevor Williams tossed a scoreless and hitless bottom of the 8th with 2 swinging strikeouts. Also with the Nats, bad news on starting pitcher Connolly Early, who the Nats got from the Boston Red Sox for infielder Curtis Mead in a trade that was announced on July 26. So Early is on the 15-day injured list due to left elbow inflammation. He this week experienced left forearm tightness. Not good. And so the Nats for now are pausing him in his recovery. The hope was that he would pitch for the Nats at the major league level before the end of this regular season. But to me, that was always far from a given. I mean, one blip in the recovery can be all that it takes for him to be shut down. We'll see what happens, but you're not taking any chances with Connolly Early, given how important he is. The Red Sox took Early in the 5th round of the 2023 MLB first-year player draft out of the University of Virginia. Early for the Red Sox at the major league level in regular season games did well. 21 games, all starts, 111 innings, ERA of 3.24, whip of 1.23, strikeouts per 9 innings of 9.89. Next up for the Nats is a 6-game homestand beginning with a 3-game series against the Cincinnati Reds at Nationals Park. The Nats have listed the following starting pitchers as probables for the series. Game 1 Friday evening at 6:45, Cade Cavalli. Game 2 Saturday evening at 6:45, Andrew Alvarez. Game 3 Sunday afternoon at 12:15. The Nats starting pitcher is to be announced. All right, hey, for all of you parents out there with teenagers, so we know that you're already trying to keep a million different things under control. Well, Cash App is here to help make sure that your teen's money and spending aren't adding to that craziness. Cash App is great. With the Cash App card available to teens 13 to 17 with sponsorship by an eligible parent or guardian, every transaction triggers a real-time notification for you to see, empowering your teen to practice independence while giving you peace of mind by keeping track of your teen's spending. You could also manage everything directly from your own Cash App account without having to switch between the two, making it simple to stay connected to your teen's financial activity in a way that's both efficient and empowering. Also, no one wants unnecessary surprises. Well, with Cash App, there are no monthly fees, there are no minimum balance requirements, and there are no hidden charges when sending or receiving money. With the Cash App card, you and your teen's balances receive 24/7 fraud monitoring, and if the card ever gets lost, you have the ability to lock your teen's card right from your phone with just one tap. Parents, it's time to start focusing on your teen's financial learning and growth instead of stressing about the fine print. If you're ready to give your teen more independence while staying in the loop, start by downloading Cash App and sponsoring your teen's account today. Download Cash App today and sponsor your teen. Visit the link in the notes section for this episode. Cash App is a financial services platform, not a bank. Banking services provided by Cash App's bank partner or partners. Prepaid debit cards issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC. Cash App Visa Debit Flex cards issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC, and the Bancorp Bank N.A. pursuant to a license from Visa USA Inc. See terms and conditions for the Sutton Prepaid Card, Sutton Debit Flex Card, and Bancorp Debit Flex Card. Savings provided by Cash App, a Block Inc. brand. Visit cash.app/legal/podcast for full disclosures.
Sleep Number's new collections are designed to adapt to the changing nature of your life and your sleep needs. Whether it's the personalized comfort of the new Comfort Mode mattress, the targeted pressure relief of the Comfort Next mattress, or the Climate Collection that actively cools or warms to help you fall asleep and stay asleep.
And now, get early access to our biggest sale of the year. Save 25% on the new Comfort Next Luxe for a limited time. Only at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com.
So here's all that you need to know about the American League wildcard race. We this weekend in the race have a big 3-game series for the Baltimore Orioles at the Texas Rangers, and each team in MLB's 2026 regular season is below 500 and has a run differential of minus 33. The O's continued to stumble in trying to get to 500. A 4-1 loss to the Los Angeles Angels at Oriole Park at Camden Yards on Thursday afternoon, denying the O's a 3-game sweep. The O's in this regular season now are 56 and 59 with a run differential of minus 33, and now are 1 game behind the Texas Rangers for the American League's third of 3 wild card spots. The Rangers in this regular season are 57 and 58 with a run differential of minus 33, and we this weekend have a 3-game series for the O's at the Rangers. The American League wild card race beyond the top 2 teams in the AL wild card standings, the New York Yankees and Boston Red Sox, is, shall we say, unimpressive. The Angels, they for this regular season now are an American League worst 44 and 71 with a run differential of minus 76. The O's over their last 5 games have totaled just 9 runs. So the offense has got to get going. The O's on Thursday afternoon, just 1 run, just 4 hits, which were a home run, and 3 singles, 0 for 3 with runners in scoring position, 9 strikeouts. So the O's did draw 8 walks and a hit by pitch. So the O's drew 9 free passes and yet scored just 1 run. Gunnar Henderson, he is the Orioles starting DH and number 3 batter, went 0 for 1 with 3 walks. The Orioles starting pitcher for this 4-1 loss to the Angels at Oriole Park at Camden Yards on Thursday afternoon was Brandon Young. A disappointing outing for him. He allowed 3 runs in 4 1/3 innings, gave up 6 hits, which were a home run and 5 singles, issued 2 walks, did record 4 strikeouts, 98 pitches, 60 strikes, 38 balls, did commit a throwing error. Second consecutive disappointing outing for Brandon Young, who had been doing so well. Young in the Orioles' 6-4 win over the Philadelphia Phillies O's at Oriole Park at Camden Yards last Friday night, July 31st, allowed 4 runs in 5 2/3 innings. The biggest bright spot for the O's in this 4-1 loss to the Angels at Oriole Park at Camden Yards on Thursday afternoon was the relief pitching. 3 Orioles relievers combined to allow 1 run in 4 2/3 innings. Josh Walker tossed 1 2/3 scoreless innings. Yarmil Geraldo allowed 1 run in 1 inning, though he did record 2 swinging strikeouts. And Albert Suarez tossed 2 scoreless innings. So Orioles relievers in this series officially combined to allow 2 runs in 10 2/3 innings. Very good series for the bullpen. So next up for the O's is a 6-game road trip beginning with this big 3-game series at the Texas Rangers. The O's have listed the following starting pitchers as probables for the series. Game 1 Friday night at 8:15, Shane Baz. Game 2 Saturday night at 7:15, Kyle Bradish. Game 3 Sunday afternoon at 2:35, Cade Povich. And that'll do it for you and me for now, but there's more to come. Monday show, episode 1384. We'll have a lot for you on the Washington Commanders. Also on Monday's show, I'll talk Washington Nationals and Baltimore Orioles. The Nats this weekend have a 3-game series against the Cincinnati Reds at Nationals Park. The O's this weekend have a 3-game series at the Texas Rangers. Have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you on Monday.
Stefon Diggs is the best receiver on this roster. And that's no disrespect to Terry McLaurin, because Terry McLaurin is awesome as well. I'm just trying to illustrate how good Stefon Diggs has been and was even after an ACL tear last year in New England.